Hey boys and girls, how are you doing? Today is Wednesday, April the 15th. Double checking my dates, they all kind of run together right now. Today's lesson, you're going to need pages 15 and 16, and they look like this. Today's lesson's a little different. We're going to see how we can get through it. I'm a little worried on getting through this one, but we'll figure it out, right? Today's lesson, we're working on summarizing using key details. I'm going to still use the same standard, even though we're not finding a central message, but we are still locating key details, okay, in the story to help summarize a text. So our I can statement is I can summarize a text using the key details. And that's what we're going to work on today. All right, so this one here is probably going to be one your parents are going to have to look over this little forms with you, and they're going to have to do some at the end as well to help you summarize some text later, but it gives specific instructions on what to do. So we're just going to start off looking at it, okay? So from retelling to summarizing. So to retell a story, students recall details or events in order. When you're retelling, you're given one thing after the other. Summarizing also requires you to recall, but it involves greater understanding of the importance of particular events or details. Okay, so to summarize, we start tying in the key events and details to get more precise statements. We're not telling every little bitty specific thing that happened, okay, as if you're telling all of the events, okay? So, for example, if a story listed, and this gives the example here of like pencils, paper, notebooks, and folders, instead of listing all those things when you summarize, you would simply say school supplies, okay? That makes it shorter, okay? So when you're summarizing, you're taking out all the unimportant things and just capturing the main idea or what remains, okay? So hopefully that helps you a little bit. So let's take this little story. There's a demonstration of a classroom here. Since we're not in a classroom, I'm not really making up what we're doing, but let's take the little right here under one, and we'll read that together. This teacher, what happened in her classroom. And so let's see what happened. First, they're going to retell the story event by event, and then they're going to go back and summarize it. So let's look at recounting the details that happened. It said, this morning I had you all sit on the rug and for our morning meeting. We sat in a circle and we talked about today's weather, and Josh asked a question about snowflakes. Then we talked about the book that we were going to read during story time, and Marissa and Evan shared stories that were related to the topic of the book. Okay? So now that was retelling the events, each specific or separate event that happened. All right. Now when we summarize, you just tell about the details just like you do with retelling, but you make it shorter and you only tell the most important things. So here's how they used that information to summarize. They said, this morning we gathered for our morning meeting. We talked about today's weather and about the book that we were going to read later on at story time. Much shorter, but still got the same message across. All right, so now we're going to model summarizing a text. Now this gives a story that I don't have, and you may not have, so I'm just going to attempt to summarize the story that we read yesterday, The Girl and the Apples. Okay, that was by Tyler Rutchell. So let me just reread that, and we'll try to summarize as we go. Now, this is just Miss Mais's version of summarizing. You might choose to do another way, okay? So here we go. One fall afternoon, a girl went to a farm to pick apples. She was in a hurry, so she picked carelessly both ripe apples and unripe ones. When she finished, her wagon was filled with a small mountain of apples. The girl asked the farmer, "Quick, tell me how long you think it will take me to get back home." All right, well, I stopped right there, and I kind of summarized that here in the pink. I said a little girl who went to pick apples was in a hurry to get home. I just kind of summarized that. She was going to pick them. It gave a lot of details of what happened, but she picked them, and she was in a hurry to get home. Okay, so that was my summary of that first part. So the farmer thought carefully. Then he said, "Be patient. If you go slowly, you will be back soon. If you go fast, you will not get back until night. It's your choice. Now, I felt like that was pretty important, so I wrote that in the blue, that the farmer told her to go slow and she would get home sooner, but if she went fast, she wouldn't get home until dark or until night. Okay, so that was kind of my little, was kind of hard to, that was a very important detail in the story, so it's kind of hard to take that one out. All right, let's finish reading. The girl thought, how can that be? How can it take so long if I go fast? The girl wanted to get back home as soon as possible, so she rushed her horse and wagon onto the road. She made her horse walk very fast, and suddenly, bump, off fell some apples. Every time she hit a bump, more apples rolled off her wagon. Then she had to stop and put them back on the wagon. Because of all the delays, it was night before she got home. So I said in the green, she chose to go fast and apples fell every time she hit a bump. We know she had to pick those up, and she didn't get home until night. So that's kind of how I summarized it. It might not be perfect. You might have a better way to summarize that story, but we get the main events of the story there. So now what I would like for you to do is to take a story that you've read or that you're about to read and then practice summarizing it, telling just the main events to your parents, and that is going to be your assignment for today. So let's look back over. Remember, let's look back over let's go back and talk about what we've done. Retelling is giving those specific events much more in detail, okay? However, summarizing is whenever we take those, we put them into more concise statements, and we take out the unimportant events and just list the key or main details of the story that help us get to that main idea. All right, so that's what we looked at today. So let's look and see. Did we summarize a text by using the key details? Yes, we did. I modeled one for you. We modeled one that they gave us in the passage, and then we modeled that one from yesterday's story. So now your assignment is to read a story. It can be just a short story, or if you're reading a chapter book, you can summarize each chapter. And as you see, I just wrote down statements as I went along, okay? Summarizing the text as I read, okay? So that is your assignment for today, is to summarize a text. All right, y'all have a great afternoon. Miss you guys. I'll see you tomorrow.